you might be on the wrong career path. And the strange thing is, you may not hate your job. You may not be failing. You may even be good at what you do. That is what makes it so difficult to admit. Because if you hated it, the answer would be obvious. You could leave. But instead, you wake up every day and continue. You go to work. You study for the exams. You build the skills. You collect the experience. And somewhere in the middle of all this, a question keeps appearing. Is this really what I want to spend my life doing? Then, you quickly push the question away. You tell yourself, maybe I'm just tired. Every career is difficult. Maybe I just need to become better at it. I've already spent too much time on this. People would think I am wasting my life if I change direction now. So, you continue. Another month, another year. And eventually, you become very good at ignoring the question. But there is a problem. You can become successful on a path that is completely wrong for you. And sometimes, the better you become at walking in the wrong direction, the harder it becomes to turn around. So how do you know? How do you distinguish between a career that is simply difficult and a career that you should genuinely reconsider? That is what we need to understand. You are probably not searching for career advice. You may already have one, or at least, you may already be on a path. You may be studying something you chose years ago, working in a field you once wanted, building a business that no longer excites you, or following a plan that made perfect sense when you started. But now something feels different. You cannot always explain it. You are not necessarily miserable. You simply feel disconnected, but you are no longer sure where you are going. And that creates a very specific kind of anxiety, because you are not asking, what career should I choose? The question underneath is, what if I have already spent years moving in the wrong direction? That is the fear. And it is why this problem is so difficult. Because you are not trying to make a decision from the beginning. You are trying to question a decision you have already invested in. Your time, your money, your education, your reputation, perhaps even your family's expectations. So before we look at the signs, we need to understand something. Being on the wrong career path does not necessarily mean you hate every day. You are constantly unhappy, or you want to quit immediately. Sometimes the clearest sign is much quieter. You are doing well, but you do not want more of this life. Sign 1. You keep thinking about a different life. You are doing one thing, but your mind keeps returning to another. You are studying accounting, but you keep researching technology. You work in an office, but you spend your evenings thinking about business. You are studying medicine, but you cannot stop thinking about psychology, writing, or entrepreneurship. You are building one career, while mentally exploring another. Now, this does not automatically mean you should abandon your current path, but you should stop ignoring the pattern. Because there is a difference between occasionally imagining another career and repeatedly returning to the same alternative. The question is, what do you watch late at night? What problems do you keep trying to understand? Because sometimes your attention is telling you something before you are ready to admit it. You may say, I am studying engineering. I am deeply curious about business. You may say, I am working in finance. But every free hour is spent learning about filmmaking. Your words describe your current identity. Your attention may be revealing the identity you are trying to grow into. And if the same interest keeps returning for years, you should at least investigate it seriously, not blindly follow it. Investigate it. Sign 2. You love the idea of your career more than the actual work. Be honest with yourself. Do you actually like the work? Or do you like what the work represents? Maybe you say you want to be an entrepreneur, but what you really want is freedom. You do not necessarily enjoy selling. You do not enjoy uncertainty. You do not enjoy managing people. You do not enjoy repeatedly solving problems that nobody asked you to solve. You may not want entrepreneurship. You may want the lifestyle you associate with entrepreneurship. Maybe you want to become a doctor. But do you want the actual work? The long education, the difficult decisions, the emotional responsibility, the repetitive tasks, the pressure? Or do you want the respect that comes with the title? This is something you need to ask yourself. If the title disappeared, would you still want the work? If nobody knew what you did, if nobody admired you, if there was no impressive identity attached to it, would you still want to spend years becoming better at the actual activities? Because every career has a glamorous image, but you do not live inside the image. You live inside the ordinary Tuesday. The emails, the meetings, the reports, the patients, the customers, the deadlines, the repetition. Your career has to make sense not only in your imagination. Sign 3. You are only continuing because you have already invested too much. Maybe you have been thinking about leaving your career for a while, But every time the thought appears, you tell yourself, I have already spent 5 years on this. I'm already halfway through. My parents have sacrificed too much. I cannot start again. But here is the problem. The time you have already spent is gone. You cannot recover it by spending another 10 years doing something you no longer want. Imagine you realize you have been driving in the wrong direction. You have already driven for 3 hours. Would you say? Of course not. You would turn around. The 3 hours are already gone. The only question is whether you want to waste the next 3 as well. Your past investment is information. It is not a command. Maybe the path was right for you 5 years ago. Maybe you have changed. Maybe you understand yourself better now. Maybe the path was never right, but you were too young to know. That does not mean your past was meaningless. It means you have learned something, and sometimes the most valuable thing a wrong path gives you. Sign 4. You are not tired of working. You are tired of becoming this person. This is a deeper sign. You may not hate working. You may actually enjoy learning. You may be disciplined. You may be willing to work hard, but you do not want to become the person this career requires you to become. You do not want the lifestyle. You do not want the environment. You do not want the problems. You do not want the daily rhythm. You do not want the version of yourself that exists 10 years further down this path. Ask yourself, if I became extremely successful in this career, would I want the life I would have? Not the title, the actual life. Where would you live? What would your days look like? Who would you spend time with? What would your responsibilities be? What would you have to sacrifice? Because sometimes you are not afraid of failing at your career. You are afraid of succeeding at it. And that fear is worth paying attention to. Sign 5. You are good at it, but you do not want to keep improving. Maybe people keep telling you, you are good at this. You should continue. You have talent. But here's the question nobody asks. Do you want to become even better? Because being good at something is not the same as wanting to dedicate your life to it. You may be naturally good at mathematics. That does not mean you should become an engineer. You may be good at talking to people. That does not mean you should become a salesperson. You may be good at writing. Ability is not destiny. Your talent tells you what you may be capable of. Your curiosity tells you what you may be willing to keep exploring. And a career requires years of continued improvement. So ask yourself, if I knew I would spend the next 10 years becoming better at this, would I feel excited, neutral, or trapped? Your answer matters. But be careful. Not every desire to quit means you are on the wrong path. They feel bored. They quit. They become frustrated. They change direction. They encounter difficulty. They start again. Eventually, they have collected several beginnings, but no mastery. Am I running away from this career, or am I genuinely moving towards something else? There is a difference. If you have no idea what you want, and you simply want to escape discomfort, changing careers may not solve the deeper problem. You may carry the same pattern into the next path. You will become bored again. You will struggle again. You will question yourself again. The goal is not to find a career that never becomes difficult. The goal is to find a direction where the difficulty feels worth it. A simple test. Take your current career. Now remove the following: the title, the status, your parents' expectations, your friends' opinions, the fear of starting again, the time you have already invested, the actual problems, the actual skills, the actual daily life. And ask yourself, if I were choosing today, knowing everything I know now, would I choose this again? Do not answer too quickly. The answer may not be yes. It may not be no. Not exactly this. And that answer is important, because sometimes the solution is not to abandon the entire field. You may need a different role, a different environment, a different specialization, a different way of using the skills you already have. The question is not always, should I quit? What is the closest version of this life that actually fits me? Conclusion. If you are questioning your career right now, there is something you need to understand. You do not need to panic. You do not need to quit tomorrow. You do not need to discover your perfect purpose immediately. But you should stop ignoring the question. Because a career is not just something you do for 8 hours a day. It is one of the main ways your life gets spent. And the danger is not choosing the wrong path at 20. The danger is refusing to question the path at 30 because you chose it at 20. You are allowed to change your mind. You are allowed to discover that what once made sense no longer does. You are allowed to realize that you are pursuing an image instead of a life. But before you leave, be honest. Are you escaping difficulty, or are you finally recognizing that the difficulty is taking you somewhere you do not want to go? Because the goal is not to find a career that feels easy. There may be no such career. The goal is to find a direction where, even when the work is difficult, you can still look at the life you are building and say, yes, this is difficult, but I want to become the person capable of doing it.